but I had a lot of hesitation because I didn't know what I was doing. I still will never tell you that I know everything, right? But I think that I sat down and looked at what are my goals? What's it going to be every month in rent? What's my insurance cost going to be? I knew what I needed to do at the end of the day, what revenue target I needed to hit. And then we looked at the services available and prioritized the ones that were going to get us there fastest. So like we were talking about earlier, it comes down to planning, and then it never matches reality at the end of the day. But I've pivoted a lot through my life. I've had to kind of change my focus, change my career, and that's kind of what entrepreneurship's about, is being able to adapt and adjust and thrive in the process. So.
Yeah. Life that I'm living. Sit back, chill, start a multi-business with the focus of making millions. It's the stuff that dreams are made of.
Hello everybody, thank you for joining us for another episode of Let's Talk Business. I'm your host Marvell Robinson, and today I have with me a special guest here in the local area of South Bend, Mr. Hunter Mishler. How you doing, Mentor?
I'm well, man. It's a pleasure to be here today. It's an honor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to join us today. I'm looking forward to this conversation because in my interactions with you, I can certainly tell that you are a man that is thriving for success.
Definitely chasing it one way or another. So it's ups and downs, but always looking on the bright side, I guess, and trying to find the right answer. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your background. What is your background? Where you're from, and how did we get here?
Yeah, so long road here to South Bend. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. My family's originally from there, so I went to high school, college in Toledo, and then had an opportunity to start a business out here in the southwest corner of Michigan, and jumped at the first chance. So kind of picked up and left, and chased a dream, landed out here in South Bend. So.
Okay. So what is the name of your business, and what does it do?
So I am the owner and operator of Tint World South Bend. We're a franchise automotive customization and styling center. So that basically includes everything from window tint, paint protection films, vinyl wraps, anything that you want to change on your car, we're happy to help you get there one way or another. So it's a service that's really about people and finding what their wants and needs are, and then figuring out how you get them there. So for me, people is kind of what it always comes back to.
All right. Absolutely. People is what it always come back to. I like that. So how did we get here? What made you decide to choose that particular career path?
Yeah, I guess my first career path kind of ended abruptly. The company that I had started downsized a little bit, and I found myself kind of in an expensive luxury for my own company, which was a weird position to be in. So started looking for what my next step was. That involved a ton of job searching, honestly. I'd previously been a data engineer. I built big, large-scale data infrastructure for a cannabis company in Buchanan, Michigan. And that really taught me a lot about business. I learned a lot about what numbers drive certain things that you want to change in a business. Gave me a fundamental understanding of kind of how do you get to a profitable business. But after I walked away from that, I really wanted something that was more people-focused rather than just sitting behind a desk and working on programming and numbers. Felt like I kind of wanted more out of life, more interaction, and be more of a positive influence, I guess, in my community. So at the end of the day, I found the opportunity to purchase the Tint World franchise here. It was a struggling store that we've really managed to turn around and make a really big difference in a short period of time. So I don't have a ton of automotive background. It's been a passion of mine for a really long time. I remember growing up reading my dad's Cars and Track magazines, and cars were always kind of the reward for me. If I worked hard and did really well, I'd be able to afford nice cars and drive fast things. So I'm very fortunate to find myself in a position where I get to not only see cool cars and be a part of that community, but help people, achieve their car dreams every day. So it's really a special job and a cool place to be in. So.
Okay. And yes, it is a cool place to be in. I've been in the shop. It's a nice location as well. So interestingly, how you made that transition. Do you have a college background?
Yeah, I studied business all through college. I'm currently 3 credit hours away from getting my degree. When I had the opportunity to start that first business, it was an all or nothing, right now or never kind of opportunity. So I didn't finish my internship, and instead I went and started a business. So that was a big leap that I had to take, something I still kind of regret, and I will absolutely be finishing my degree just for my personal gratification and understanding.
Yeah.
I think that education has been the fun foundation that I built everything on at the end of the day, and you can't really get far without it, for better or worse.
Yeah,
So.
true. So what school did you go to that you are still going to?
Yeah, I attended Lourdes University in it's a little town called Sylvania, Ohio, small Catholic school there, and I played lacrosse for them and helped coach their team. My brother and I actually played on the same lacrosse team there, so that was a really cool opportunity to be a part of a young college sport team. That was their first year that I signed on for, so I've always loved the process of building things, whether it be a young team or a business, but creating and the making of something is something that really satisfies me personally, and something I seem to chase in business too. So, yep. But a lot of that started in college with how do we set this team up? What are the fundamentals of a good team? And that translates to business every day.
Every day, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, just so I'm clear, as I was listening to you, I was listening to a lot of transitions taking place. So there was a job, and went from the job to a business.
Right.
And then what else happened?
Even within the businesses, it's been a lot of pivots. So from college to a business to unemployed, and then to starting a franchise.
Yeah.
So my father, Matt, and I jumped into franchising with both feet. He's made a lot of people very wealthy in his life, and we both kind of looked at each other and said that we were tired of doing that we wanted to take a chance on ourselves at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So he's running a spray foam insulation franchise out all of Ohio. And then I'm taking care of Tint World here, and we're looking to expand that pretty aggressively as well.
Okay, so we're glad to get Dad out here too.
Yeah, Dad's a lot of fun. He's a great personality and just a people person at the end of the day. So I get a lot of that from him, I hope.
So would you say that your father was the first source of entrepreneurship, mentorship for you? Is he that example for you, or were there other individuals that kind of was the inspiration for you?
I think for anyone that's looking to be in business, it's important to take your lessons where they come. And of course, my dad was the first and continues to be a daily mentor and guiding light for me. But I've learned just as much from the really bad bosses I've had as I do the really good ones. And it's important to kind of figure out your takeaways from each interaction that you can and from each person, because every opportunity you have to make yourself better comes from little interactions like this one. So. I think that I've had an incredible partners at the previous business I started. I learned a lot from some guys that were a little bit older than me, and just watching how they moved through business taught me how I wanted to. So I think that I am whatever kind of leader I am today because of the people that have shown me what I do and don't want to be like at the end of the day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's some good gems that you just
shared
right
we'll
there.
keep sprinkling them in, hopefully. So
yeah, good stuff. So let's talk about the establishment. Now, you mentioned you had a previous business before Tint World.
Yep.
For both of those businesses, we normally on the show talk a lot about business plans, working those business plans. Was that the same process for you, or was it another route that you took to get to where you were?
I think that when you're, especially at the start of a business, even having a good guess at what your numbers are going to be is way better than just taking a shot at figuring it out later. It's helpful to have a plan because that gives you a roadmap to adapt to reality. So planning is a huge part of how I attack most of my problems. I think that if you're looking for solutions, you're not complaining about problems. So you have to plan what you're going to do next and how you're going to fix anything that comes up. So an entrepreneur is someone that solves problems at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, you mentioned, we were talking about my dad, and that's something I always have him in the back of my head saying is see a need and fill it. Because at the end of the day, that's all you need to start a business, is to see somewhere where there's a need from people in your community, and then figure out how you're going to make money filling that need for them.
Absolutely. So when it comes to your business now, Tint World, and so you said it's a franchise, obviously. Most people don't, when you hear the word franchise, you think of other
McDonald's,
fast food
right.
restaurants. So how in terms of this. So you bought into it. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, I think that when you look at a franchise, what you're purchasing is a system. It's
Gotcha.
not a business. It's not going to instantly make you money. It's something that gives you a toolbox to work from. So for me, not coming from in the automotive industry, a franchise was an opportunity to kind of hit the ground running. And it was important to me to be able to run my business the way that was important to me. And Tint World gave me the freedom to do that because they give you the relationships and the vendor contacts. They plug you into this industry that you've never been a part of, and they do it with a lot of support. So franchising can be an awesome way for anyone that is interested in being their own boss to do it with a little bit of a safety net and a little bit more help than you would get just on your own. So definitely, it's not something that people consider as their first step into entrepreneurship, maybe. But it's definitely something that there's a lot more opportunity than people think.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because that was the thing I was thinking about. Because when you buy into something like that, and you said it perfectly, you said a system, you purchase a system. Because, coming into a business ground up is a little different when you're thinking about capital and all the stuff you have to spend money on. Now, while it's true you've invested into it by making this purchase, it was something already there that now you can utilize and maybe shape or mold to fit you.
Yeah.
How has that been working for you so far?
I love it. I can honestly say that in my work life, I've never been happier with the work I'm doing. And I'm not making the most money I've ever made in my life, but I really am satisfied with how I'm running business. And I think that the franchise model just gives you a dictionary to, a playbook at least. But for me, I've taken that playbook and prioritized service above all else. That's something that comes from my family as well. I'm sure we'll keep bringing them up, but just if you're not helping others, then you're only helping yourself. And that's just not something that was ever a part of our mindset growing up. So, sorry, I'm getting emotional thinking, but for me, being able to serve a need and to help people with something that's as simple as your car, which we all spend a ton of time in for the most part. It's a big part of people's lives, and whether you love your car or you really don't like it, there's still services that need to be provided. So we take a lot of pride in taking care of the people, not just the vehicle.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I don't know how we got here, but
but no, I'm glad that you brought that out, and I can see that there's a strong attachment to what you do, which means you're going to work even harder to make sure that your clientele or your customers are taken care of.
Yes.
So I appreciate you having feeling behind the services that you provide, because that means a lot versus a community of individuals who just have a business and they have a careless attitude.
Right.
Sometimes we run into that in certain businesses, whether it's from a cashier or something, they just have a nonchalant attitude. It's so good to see that you have a feeling that's attached to it, so we can trust that Tint World will give us the best.
I hope so. And if we don't, then we're here to learn from it and do better together with the community and the people that patron us at the end of the day. I'm a big advocate of, you're always learning, you're always improving, and that comes from feedback from people you trust and that trust you. So I think that the community is what that really gets down to.
Yeah. So how long has Tint World been under your domain, so to speak?
We purchased and took ownership in November of last year, so not a ton of time. But we've seen growth up, by 50, 60, 70% almost every month, and we're really just building a loyal customer base with that service that I'm taking a lot of pride in. So.
So are there any things that you can say that you foresee? I know it's kind of hard with this question. Was there anything that maybe prior to you making the purchase into it that you saw in the schematics or anything that showed what might have been some of the challenges that you may face that prevent whatever, because you mentioned it was a dying, struggling business. What's the preventative measures from that you observed?
So to be perfectly honest, we had an agreement in place before I'd even seen the building. The fundamentals were strong behind Tint World itself. The business itself looked good, but I had a lot of hesitation because I didn't know what I was doing. I still will never tell you that I know everything, right? But I think that I sat down and looked at what are my goals? What's it gonna be every month in rent? What's my insurance cost gonna be? I knew what I needed to do at the end of the day, what revenue target I needed to hit. And then we looked at the services available and prioritized the ones that were gonna get us there fastest. So, like we were talking about earlier, it comes down to planning, and then it never matches reality at the end of the day. But I've I've pivoted a lot through my life. I've had to kind of change my focus, change my career, and that's kind of what entrepreneurship's about, is being able to adapt and adjust and thrive in the process. So,
yeah. Now, when you think about entrepreneurship, would you agree with me when I say that entrepreneurship is the process of developing the mindset that will lead you to becoming a boss?
Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree anymore. What makes a successful entrepreneur isn't intelligence or just hard work at the end of the day. It's, it's sacrifice and being able to believe you're going to succeed at any cost. Because if you don't think you are, then who else is going to?
Exactly.
And that really helps with focusing on what you can do things about. You have to let things go every day. Entrepreneurship is a constant, arbitrage on your personal time, on your professional time. It's a big teeter-totter all the time. So you have to be flexible and you have to be willing to change your mindset at the end of the day.
Now, see, I'm glad you said this, because now this is where we can bring in more family conversation now.
Sure.
Because you mentioned sacrifice, right? Entrepreneurships take on risk. That means sometimes there'll be some losses, there'll be some gains. You're a father, you have 3 children, you're a husband.
Yep.
How do you balance it all when you're dealing with that? Are they supportive, or?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I wouldn't be here without them. So
yeah. So how do you manage you having the children and having a wife?
I have to give up a lot. I have to give up a lot of time. Missed a lot of my daughter growing up. And I count on my wife to be doing a good job at home and doing the things that I'm not.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. Don't let anyone ever tell you it will be, because you're giving up something every day. But you do it because you believe in something.
Yeah.
And it's a brighter future for you, for your community, for your kids. So I get up every day knowing I'm going to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
And I try and make it worth it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sorry, that's the hardest part, honestly, is not being there, because you have to be putting your business first. It doesn't have to be all the time, but you have to listen to your family and your support system to what they need to, because you can't do it without them.
Yeah. And I can tell you're very family oriented.
Oh man,
very strong in there, and I imagine that comes from the example of those prior to you. You mentioned your dad is an entrepreneur as well, so he set an example for you. So you probably looking at his example, how he was able to manage it, and because you lived under it.
Yeah, and
it
was I grew up having a hard time because he was putting his education first. He got his master's degree right as I was going into high school or middle school, and really would have liked him to be around a lot more. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I try and follow his example every day of you're gonna give stuff up, but it's for them.
Yeah.
So that's your job.
It's for them. See, and that's key what you said, because you mentioning that you're building up something, and it's amazing. You the second generation, right?
Yeah.
Daddy, you, and then who knows?
Yeah,
maybe another
right?
generation to come out of your children, right?
My job is to afford them the opportunity to live life abundantly every day.
Say that one more time.
My job is to make sure that they can live their life abundantly every day, whatever that means to them, whatever route they choose, that they get the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I want to do that with my employees. We offer huge amounts of training at personal expense. So it's just about investing in people, whether that's your kids, your community, or your employees. If you're not putting in resources into them, you can't expect them to give them back.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that too, because now I want to talk about your employees, because here's the thing. There's different types of business ownership you have, and I'm sure you're familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, right?
Sure.
The quadrant.
Right? Yeah.
So the quadrant you're on, you actually have employees. You have W-2s. They're dependent on your business to be successful, for their life to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So what is that like for you, having that type of responsibility? You mentioned making sure they get benefits and so forth, but some people are afraid of that. Some people are afraid to take on that level of responsibility, and they rather forever just have ICs or independent contracts where they don't have to be responsible for the taxes. What makes it different for you?
I take it as a point of pride. There's been weeks that many weeks that I choose to pay my employees over myself. I would rather see the business have an opportunity and give them a chance. If people depend on you, you show up for them. And that's kind of the end of the story. So it's whatever it takes to give the people that show up for me every day in my business the things that they deserve and that they earn. So I'm really proud of our compensation. I'm constantly listening to their feedback, and we work together to make a profitable business. So
nice. So the education aspect of it, what did you go through some additional training to help you understand the rules of the land?
Yeah.
When it comes to the age for minors, if they could work for you, then you have to have the posters up that the IRS tell you have to have.
Yeah.
So all that stuff, did you go through some kind of additional training to help you grasp a full understanding of all that, or you just kind of go through the flow?
I think it's kind of it's something you just have to do. You have to know what you're accountable for as a business owner, whether that's your employees' paychecks or your taxes or your rent, whatever that is, you're accountable for it. And part of that is knowing the compliance with the law. So like having a safety data sheet available. I make sure that my employees know how to conduct themselves safely around our products. It's all about knowing what you need to do to protect your business, and part of that's complying with local laws and regulations. So again, that's where be educated and go find the information or someone that knows it, because if you have a question, there's always an answer, and it just takes some looking.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. So in other words, it goes back to you as a business owner taking on the responsibility to find that information, to go look for it if no one's teaching it. Because you better believe they send stuff in the mail all the time. When you get a business established, you'll get some in the mail telling you this is what you have to do. And you'll be like, is this real? You have to make sure,
Call and ask, right? The people sending those things the worst thing you can do is not pick up the phone, right? There's no one that doesn't want to help you if you call and ask for it. And you won't. That's one of the things that's been hard for me to learn in business is that the only help you don't get is the stuff you don't ask for. So going and talking to your vendors, talking to the people that you're accountable to, make sure you understand what that is. And they're more than happy to tell you almost every time. So
so you have a system, obviously. Well, let me ask, do you have a system? Because obviously with you having W-2s, employees, do they have to sign in? Do they have a scanner to scan a card for their time?
Yeah.
Is that what you use?
We use time clocks. We have a whole point of sale system that our employees can say that they're working on this order for this customer. So it helps me with keeping track of records, but you have to have a system at the end of the day. It's too much to think you can do it on paper because you have to be consistent at the end of the day. And if you're not consistent, then you don't have good data to learn from. So for me, having a payroll system, having an employee management time clock like that is super critical. It takes a lot off my shoulders in terms of what I have to think about every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Mental drainage.
Yeah, you shouldn't be afraid to spend money on things that free up space for you to think about other things that are important.
Great point.
Yeah, that's a huge value add to you in your personal life as well as to your business.
Yeah. So going back to this overall investment, might be a personal question. You don't have to answer it if it gets too personal. But you went into an investment of purchasing into a franchise. What does that look like as far as how much would a person need to have on standby to even do such a thing? You got to have capital either way. So.
Yeah, you have to have access to some capital, certainly, and you have to expect to lose some money. That's part of the reality of business ownership, I think, especially when you're starting out.
Yes.
You can't hit the ground running all your time. So for me, I would say that's a big number that you can swing around, but really having 3 to 6 months of operating capital is what you're going to need to be able to learn for 3 months and then build your business for 3 months. It just takes time. So whatever business you're looking at, franchisee can usually tell you what that number is going to be. I know Tint World says to build a brand new one is $750,000. So it's a serious investment, no matter how you slice it. But if you don't have money to invest, you do have time. So whichever one comes first, you have to give a little of both.
Okay, so you got to know your numbers.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's really what it comes back to. You can't change things if you don't know what they are.
Okay. So do you have an accountant
Yep.
Is it an outsourced accountant or somebody part of your team?
Yeah, we work with a large accounting firm that specializes in franchises. So they've been a huge asset in making sure that I'm looking at the right numbers, at the right data, making sure that I'm running my business well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So if you had the opportunity to, which you do now, what words of encouragement would you like to share with up and coming entrepreneurs when it comes to business ownership on the franchise level?
Yeah, I think that a young business owner who's looking to start a business should look at a franchise as a safety net, as something that can help you learn the fundamentals and give you a real opportunity at being successful with a lot of help available to you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel to be a successful business owner. You just have to show up and work hard and care at the end of the day. And franchising can be a great way to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, super satisfied with the process overall. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you've come here today to share this with us and tell us exactly what your journey's been like. It obviously in all business forms, it's always some ups and there's some downs.
Yeah.
And the determination of whether one will be successful is whether or not they get up and keep moving. Would you agree?
It's your choice every day.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And bad things are going to happen. You can learn, or you can focus on them. But either way, a growth mindset is kind of what separates successful business owners in my mind.
Wow, a growth mindset. I like that. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So, if people want to definitely come in and take advantage of your services and look at what you're doing here, I want you to look in that camera and I want you to tell them how they can reach out to you and where they can come to your facility.
So we're in the old Family Video building on 933 in Auten Road. Our address is 51522 State Route 933. You can call the store at 574-544-2324. And my name is Hunter again. So I'm happy to have a conversation with any young entrepreneurs that have specific questions or are just looking for general mentorship and advice. Want to make sure that I'm available to guide whoever needs it. So appreciate the time today, sir. It's been a lot of fun.
Man. It's been an honor, man. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us and sharing your journey.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely. Thank you again.
And I look forward to us doing some more business now.
I think so, one way or another. So.
All right, all right.
Thanks you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And as for you, you've heard the words of encouragement, you've heard the journey. And so likewise, what else is there to say? As always, we want to encourage you to continue to have a boss mindset. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Let's Talk Business. Y'all take care.
Every day I'm hustling, 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 hustling.